What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. We are starting a brand new series. I'm super excited about this one because I did a little brainstorming, and I think this is going to be a really effective series for any of you guys who are wanting to get into the daily word and who are actually willing to kind of break down verses and things like that, and who have trouble interpreting the Bible. Like all those kind of things, whether you're brand new in your faith or you've been in the faith a while and just want to be consistent in your reading and understanding and learning of the Bible, I think this is going to be a great series. It's called Keeping Up with the Word. Now, the premise of this series is going to be every single day I'm going to be reading you the verse of the day, brought to you by the YouVersion Bible app. Now, I want to note that this is not a sponsorship. This is not a paid partnership. They're not paying me to do this. They have not asked me to do this or anything like that. I have no connection to YouVersion. I just really like what they're doing. If you don't know what YouVersion Bible app is, it's essentially like the Bible on your phone. It's very handy when you don't like have your physical Bible on you, like you're going down in the street or you're at work or something like that and you don't have your physical Bible on you. It's also very helpful for like highlighting things. I love the highlight feature. I love the saving verse feature. So like you can go on your phone and you can highlight a verse and you can actually categorize it, like not only just different colors, but you can also like categorize it, like let's say you have a verse you like that talks about sin. Okay, you can categorize it in the sin category. Let's say you have one that talks about worship. You can categorize that verse in the worship category. Very handy app. Highly recommend, but this is not a sponsored video. But today's word of the day is from Jeremiah 29 verse 13, and it says, "You will seek me and you will find me when you seek me with all of your heart." Now, this is a very popular verse, okay? People recite this all the time. Jeremiah 29 is just a popular chapter, but let's go ahead and break it down a little bit and kind of give it a little bit of context, okay? So, in verse 4, it says that this is what the Lord Almighty, the God of Israel, says to those I carried into exile from Jerusalem to Babylon. Okay, so this is God talking to the Israelites. Okay, this is God talking to his people. Okay, so now we're talking about all of the promises that God is bringing to the people of Israel. All right, so if we continue to read, it says, "Build houses and settle down, plant gardens and eat what they produce, marry and have sons and daughters, find wives and sons, and give your daughters in marriage, so that they too may have sons and daughters. Increase in numbers there, do not decrease. Also seek the peace and prosperity of the city to which I have carried you into exile. Pray to the Lord for it, because if it prospers, you too will prosper. Yes, this is what the Lord Almighty, the God of Israel, says. Do not let the prophets and diviners among you deceive you. Do not listen to the dreams you encourage them to have. They are prophesying lies to you in my name. I have not sent them, declares the Lord. This is what the Lord says. When 70 years are completed for Babylon, I will come to you and fulfill my good promise to bring you back to this place. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you, not to harm you. Plans to give you hope in the future. Then you will call on me and come to pray to me, and I will listen to you." And that's where we get to Jeremiah 29:13, where it says, "You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart. I will be found by you, declares the Lord, and bring you back from captivity." Now, I know we just read a lot, so let me just kind of break it down into chunks. So, what's happening right here in context? So now the context of chapter 29 is a letter to the exiles. That's the subtitle. So Jeremiah is talking about the prophecy he's received from God, and it's the plans that he has for the children of Israel who have been exiled into, I believe, Babylon. Yeah, so the children of Israel who were exiled from Jerusalem into Babylon, God is understanding their pain and their suffering while being exiled. And so he's making them a covenant. He's making them a promise. He's consoling them in the middle of the pain with these prophesying words that he's giving to Jeremiah to recite out to the Israelites. Now, oftentimes we take this verse and we kind of use the context to kind of console ourselves in a moment, which we do for most verses. But it's very important to understand the context behind this verse, because it is a direct promise from God to actually turn his people who have actually betrayed him first and have earned an exile between themselves. God is using the pain that they have brought upon themselves to bring them back into the face of God. And so I want to encourage you, oftentimes you are going to rebel against God, whether that's through your sin or through your anger or through just things that life tosses at you that you handle poorly. Things are going to weigh in on you and they will bring you away from God. But God is going to allow that to be a full circle moment to bring you back into the face of God. So even when you were exiled, quote unquote, for his, like from his presence, from his plans, from everything, when you were quote unquote exiled from the original path that God may have had for you, you will always be brought back to the original path that God has for you, if that makes sense. So now I want to actually dive into this. What does God mean in verse 23 when he says, "You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart"? Now, it is very important to understand that a lot of the times we struggle with finding God, quote unquote, because we don't necessarily seek him with intentionality. And what does that mean? That doesn't necessarily just mean trying harder, trying harder, trying harder, but often it means just understanding how to seek him and what to seek him for. I think a lot of the times we try and seek the blessing that God can give us in our lives. Like we can seek God's hand and his work in our lives. So whether that's through a situation or through a season or through a place or through finances or through friendships or whatever, like we try and seek the blessings of God without actually trying to seek the person of God himself. We are more infatuated with what God can give us than who God is. And that is what God is talking about. You will seek me and you will find me. He's not saying you will seek me and you will find blessings, or you will seek blessings and you will find me. It's not the vice versa. These things do come, of course, but you have to seek the person of God and not the blessings of God. And how can you best do that? How can you practically seek the person of God? Here's how. If we want to seek the person of God and not the blessing of God, it looks like this. We have to get in his word, right? And it's not getting in his word because we want to check something off, but it's getting in his word because if you can understand what God says and who he is, then now you can understand who you're seeking, right? If I don't like, let's say somebody goes missing, right? And somebody has asked me to find their missing child or their missing husband and missing wife or whatever. Like, let's say somebody's missing child, somebody's child is missing. And somebody comes up, like the mom or the dad comes up to me and says, "Can you find my child?" If I don't know what that child looks like, if I don't know what that child naturally does, if I don't know anything about the child, I'm probably not going to find it. And so, in the same way, if you don't know anything about God, if you don't know what he says, you don't know what he stands for, you don't know what he thinks, you don't know what he's done, you don't know what he plans to do, if you don't know anything about God, how are you going to expect to seek and find God? Right? You're going to be on a like wild goose chase. If you don't know him, you don't know of him, then you're not going to know him. You see what I'm saying? And so, in the same way, we have to seek God with intentionality of actually knowing who he is. And one of the ways we can know who he is by getting into the word which he's given us. A lot of people pray for a word of God, yet he's given us 66 books to actually read, yet we choose to neglect that. If you want to enter into the presence of God, you have to read your word, not because that's what saves you or anything like that, but simply because that's the free gifts he's given you. 1,500 years of history has been poured into this, all for you and me to actually be able to witness freely and understand the will of God for our lives. Now, there's also the important aspect of actually seeking God with everything you have, right? In Mark 12, it talks about how we need to actually love the Lord our God with all our heart, mind, soul, and strength. And we can't do that if we just hold things back, right? God says, "You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all of your heart," meaning we're not reserving anything. Okay, so if you're only seeking him with 50%, like you're seeking him partially on Sundays, maybe, but then you're also seeking every sort of validation from the world that it has to offer, you are doing yourself and God a disservice. You're never going to find him because you're not seeking him with everything that you have, right? Going back to that analogy of a missing child, right? If I'm only really looking for the child, like, just kind of moseying around, just glancing around, not really deep searching for the child, I'm probably not going to find it, right? I have to actually deep search for the kid. In the same way, you have to deep search for God, and he will reveal himself to you. He's not going to stay hidden for the rest of your life, but you have to actually deep search. If you are on the search for other kinds of truth, other kinds of validation, other kinds of quote unquote love, all of these things, you are going to miss the picture. Not because all of the things you may be seeking are bad, but because they just kind of divert your attention from the one thing that truly is good, which is God. And so there has to be a level of devotion that we put into actually seeking God. Because if we can't devote ourselves to trying to find him, what will we do when we actually do find him? We're not going to respond to him. And so if we don't devote ourselves now, then when he actually does reveal himself to us, we're not going to be devoted and we're not going to actually have a genuine relationship with him because we're going to be too busy with everything else that we've put on our plates. So seek me and you will find me when you seek me with all of your heart. Now, there also has to be the aspect that we seek him with our heart and not our eyes. I think that's a lot of things that people do. And that's why that verse, we walk by faith, not by sight. It's not because we're like trying to be blind bats, or not because we're like trying to shut off our brain. But if we don't seek with our heart, then what we do is we seek with our eyes. And our eyes are deceptive. Our eyes are deceptive. Our eyes are deceptive, right? They deceive. And so when we look at things and we try and find God in certain things of the world, like that's cool. But at the same time, if our heart is not being led to God, if our heart is not being devoted to God, if our heart is not being transformed, then what will happen is we'll be deceived by our eyes, and that will affect our heart, right? Proverbs 4:23 tells us to guard our hearts, for everything you do flows from it. But it also says, not in that same chapter, but there's just also another saying that the eyes and ears are the window to the soul, right? And so if our windows are being projected onto everything else and they're not looking towards God, then what will happen is our heart is godless, and we won't be able to seek God with all of our heart because there's things that are contaminating our hearts, right? And so that's one of the reasons why there's so much implication on our heart posture in the scriptures, right? Guard your hearts, for everything you do flows from it. There's so many scriptures telling us that we need to guard our heart. And so in the same way, when we consume different things, when we consume other ideals and other ideologies and all this like quote unquote woke truth and just anything outside of God, not saying that these things are always bad, but they may distract you in the long run. And that's why we're also told, and I believe it's Jeremiah, to fixate our gaze upon the Lord. Seek heavenly things, not things of the earth. Seek him. Seek first his kingdom, and everything else will be added onto you. We can't be seeking the additions before we start seeking the one who provides the additions, if that makes sense. So as we wrap up, I just want to encourage you, go and seek the Lord with everything you have. Okay, if you don't know how, get in your word, go and ask questions, maybe watch a sermon or two, spend time in prayer, actually pray deeply, like cut out all distractions, go into your room, close the door, cut out all distractions and sit there for as long as it takes. But you have to be actively seeking God, not because he wants you to play this like religious game, but what he does want is your actual devotion and undivided attention. It's the same way. Like I would not be trying to talk to you if you were just not focused on what I was saying, right? It'd be pointless. If I'm trying to talk to you and get your attention, but yet you're on your phone or you're talking to like 3 other people or you're doing X, Y, and Z, like I'm not going to keep trying to get your attention. Like after a while, I'm just going to back up and wait until you can actually turn to me. Okay. In the same way, God is waiting for you to turn your attention to him. And so if you've been struggling with finding God, turn your attention to him, keep your attention on him. Don't glance at him and then just turn back to the world. Don't glance at him and just turn back to your normal lifestyle. Seek him with all of your heart and he will reveal himself to you.